So, my name is Anton Vidishchev, and the topic will be how we were building Agile in enterprise with aggressive team growth. The initial plan was for me to make the session on the Russian stage, but then the speaker for the main stage got ill, that is Kirill, and we decided to make a shift, and I was intending to make an English session in the Russian stage, which would be kind of cool, but another speaker, Nikita, is also not here, and there's a story that probably I poisoned Kirill first, then I assassinated Nikita yesterday, just to get here on the main stage. Woohoo! Alrighty, so I will give a couple of words about me. My title is a program manager in Edgar Online. This is a part of the R.R. Donnelley company, American financial company, which is a Fortune 500. I like speaking on a lot of conferences. I'm a Microsoft guy, Azure MVP, aware of like cloud, fond of Azure Cloud, and a geek. And today I'm going to tell you a story about like last 3 years of my life, basically. This is more to share my experience rather than to try to teach you what is right or not right to be done. And the story will be like in July 2012, myself and 3 guys who worked with me before joined another company to be a part of the big cloud, like promising cloud project. Within 3 years, the company was acquired by a Fortune 500. Now we have 82 people in Odessa and Kyiv. We are practicing Scrum for delivery teams, and that was a challenge we are going to talk about today. How we built that. So, 3 years ago, myself and 3 other guys started. We used to work in one team. We knew Agile, we practiced that a lot, so we thought that we're a great team which is coming to another customer, and hey, we are going to do a lot of nice things. However, later on it appeared that, well, not really. Not just from scratch. First of all, it appeared that, well, we joined the company, which was already a huge ecosystem of different departments and people working there. And actually, my marker there is set outside intentionally. I wanted to point Pluto, but, well, Pluto is not a planet anymore, you know, it's a comet. So when we joined, we were kind of Pluto in the solar system, which was there for centuries. And there's like an outsourcing team, which is there, and we would like to build things our way. However, like there were no way we could turn the entire system around us, even if we wished to. And other people, by the way, didn't know that we exist. We started like emerging on the mail, and there's like some guy called Anton. Who's that Anton? Ah, is that the guy from Serbia we recently hired and opened? Oh no, that's Ukraine. Ah, all right, that's Ukraine, great. So it was kind of hard to start building up on this. And later on it appeared that we were acquired by Fortune 500 company, and our company itself became like we felt within the solar system. That was how they felt in the Milky Way. And it appeared that within the company, when we started exploring all the stuff, it appeared that there's a lot of inhabitants and there's a lot of rules which we are not used to work with. Like, every department had totally different chemistry, totally different style. We have developers, we had DBAs, QAs, operations. We had ITG governance. If you know that guy, that's Han in Star Trek movie. Like, the hardest enemy ever is ITG. Managers and business, of course. And it appeared like our real life when we started working was like, we have to develop a new service, and this service is going to store data, so we need a database. So what we are going to do as developers, we're going to go to DBAs and to operations and to ITG at the same time, because ITG has to approve that we can store the data in the place we want to store. Operations should say that, all right, yep, you can use this database, we will support that on the Windows systems, in the data center right here, and DBAs have to say that your primary keys and indexes and all the stuff is in order. So it could take you a couple of months to create a database, just when you start doing things like that. As well, developers, our QAs are entirely different departments. This is how the company worked initially. So developers work for like from 2 weeks to a month probably to make some code, a package, which was then transferred to QA. They had 2 to 3 weeks to test it and either revert it and get it back to developers or sign off. If QA signs off the package, it goes to operations, and there's the ERB, and Enterprise Release, Electronic Release Bulletin, which is a huge documentation that any guy from operations can take, go step by step by step, and just deploy that. And this was kind of interesting. We wanted to do something with that. And the problem was that, well, in every department there were a lot of habits. We had a lot of great ideas, but in every department they used to work like for a decade like that. They were happy with that. They were, well, kind of okay with many changes. However, like a lot of things we heard that, well, yeah, the idea is great. We could start testing earlier. However, well, we have a release on that date, so let us just take the safe way, do as we always do. They never like said no, stop it, but well, breaking the habits was really a challenge. And someone knows the game, by the way? Ori. Who played Ori? An ice game recently appeared. So there's Ori, a small white creature. And let's say that Ori wants to get here to the diamond. So he has to jump through all those wires. There's the turbo jumper. He gets to the portal and appears somewhere there outside, runs, jumps, ouch, boom, 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 and gets to the crystal. This is how I usually worked when we needed a build agent, let's say. So I was Ori. And we went to ITG, we went to those guys, created a couple of tickets, etc., etc. The first build agent took us 2 months to create, but we managed that. And actually later and later, even if you have to do the same procedures all the time, they take you a smaller and smaller and smaller amount of time because you're kind of get experienced in all this stuff. Alrighty, so what we learned and what was our way? First of all, and this is like my rule of the thumb, before trying to change the organization and do something there, you have to prove your credit of trust. You have to earn it. You have to prove that people can count on you. And even when the procedures are bad, the rule of the thumb, start getting things done. Just deliver something to the customer. The first good feedback we had from the United States, and they opened a couple of more positions to our 3, was basically, these guys get the shit done. And that was kind of a one-sentence feedback. This is where you start, because if you have brilliant ideas, and maybe you have the best idea how would you reorganize the company, before that, no one is going to listen to you, even if your ideas are brilliant. Because people don't know you, and you're from outsourcing, which, well, complicated things, really. Because people, on many, I would say, on many ceremonies, team building ceremonies, on events when, like, customers and developers, like, take their hands and say, oh, we're one big team, and we can sit at the fireplace and keep our hands and sing songs together, there is still a disconnect from the first time. And building and showing yourself helps to narrow this gap. And people are going to listen to you, but not before that. The next thing we did, we had to explore what's happening around. First of all, we had like our manager, our hiring manager who worked with us, and we tried to go different directions, like, okay, there are operations. Who's managing the department? Should we go directly to him, or does he has a deputy, or there's a guy who will serve us whenever we need? And you learn the organization more by more from different angles. Sometimes you find people who are not directly responsible for things, but they help you out. Because the person who has to do things for you is either too busy and never accessible, either not competent, or something else may happen. And it was even harder for us because we are, like, the company was acquired by Fortune 500 2.5 years ago, probably. The process of acquisition have not finished yet. And so many procedures are like Are we still following Edgar Online procedures? We're taking the Donnelly procedures already, which is an entirely new procedure. Sometimes there's like a line of management, and some of the managers from the bigger company are just put in to have some control and like to change the entire organization. In any case, many people there don't really know whether they should or should not help you. But when you are there, when you make the presence, well, it appears that, well, they have a reason to really find out what are their responsibilities and help you. All right. Later on, what we did, we were solving problems one by one, and this is also kind of a rule of thumb. We never focused on everything. We knew from scratch how we really want our teams to be, and we wanted to change dozens of things. But when it was obvious for us that, well, it will never be possible. We can't focus on everything, and like the pace of the change is more important than the situation right now. Like kind of the first achievement, as the example of how we worked on that, we had totally separated departments of developers and QAs, which was like kind of how company worked for like 20 years probably or more. We were talking a lot about that we have to bring them together in one team and do testing within the sprint. We couldn't do that probably for a month. We were trying different ways. The first achievement was that we agreed to take one QA person. Thank you very much, Microsoft. Take one person from QA department, take his 50% of allocation for internal testing, just to give it a try. And we made it a habit. We were happy that something changed like for a while. We had already one person within the team for 50% of the time. That started working really well. Actually, within 2 years, it's obvious for us that we have to get all the QAs within the team, and this is what we have right now. But the first step, you know, was allocating at least some amount of time of person. The next step was bringing the operations there. And we started allocating, we had operations. Usually operations were extremely distant from other people. They never did anything without a ticket, so no ticket, no reason to, well, start the discussion about any kind of help or assistance, etc. We started distributing the 25% of operations per the team, and the discussion actually started. And this is where we also were gaining our credit of trust, because actually developers and operations in the United States never talked at all. And they started getting the news from other departments from Odessa, because developers talk to developers in the United States. Then we have all the team communicating, and the operations in Odessa talks there, and like people sit like on one floor, but really they were getting the news from Odessa. And later on, building a credit of trust with that gives you a power to propose and change something. I would say it really works. However, it takes time. Some other points I wanted to mention here, that for many managers we encountered, feeling of control is much more important than actual control. And when the team starts, every time we ramped up a new team, we have 10 teams now, there was particular amount of project micromanagement on every team. And we actually don't want a project manager, we want more a product owner kind of role. However, every manager wanted to feel that he can do all the things. And I see no problem in letting him feel that control and doing that. He will micromanage for a sprint or maybe two, but he's a busy guy, and if he sees that things work, he just won't bother you. He will bother you less and less and less. Okay, every decision should be followed by the letter where you say that, well, please objectives, we are doing something wrong, but this is our decision. Starting from now, we are doing this and this and these things. He might object, might not, but usually he feels that like an autopilot and he stops micromanaging. Well, obviously keeping good habits and remove bad habits is, well, important, and the the toughest thing was to bring those good habits to American part of business, because it was kind of easy locally. But every step we made like this, 50% QA, every retrospective, every time, every meeting, we were saying like how happy we are, and like the water breaks the stone in enterprise anyways. Even if today your manager tells you that this is never possible, it's not going to happen. The wrong thing to do would be to forget about it. The right thing would be, well, all right, I understand that's business, we can't change everything, however, you continue and continue and continue telling how good is that. And someday this manager will talk to the other managers and they will discuss that. We changed things with this. The other thing, selling but not insisting about all the changes and finding what really values for management. Actually, we were never in position of insisting and saying that, well, we have to do things like that, because we had higher management there. If we would insist too much, that would mean for them that there's a problem in subordination and with the chain of command. And we will, at this same moment, we'll get the problem of communication. We had to sell everything to every manager we had with a different kind, and this was entirely a place for diplomacy. Like, one of the managers is an experienced manager, he manages the IT projects for 15 years, he thinks he knows everything, and when we want to give him a change and we refer to the white papers, to the books by like Ken Beck, by other guys, this doesn't say much to him, and that's not the reason for this kind of guy. Because he knows how to manage, he's 15 years in the business, he's successful, he made his career. All these guys are smart, however, they don't know my business, and I do. And you can bring a book, another book, a quote, and this doesn't help at all with this particular manager. But it really helps with like the same guy, but in the other department. So we had to find the ways like that. This particular manager was willing to try things. He was okay to try something for a sprint or two, no matter is it written in a book or not. And this way worked for him. Other manager wanted statistics, and we had to bring him some numbers, velocities, how we're going to do something. And inspiring talks didn't work at all, but we had to bring numbers. The other guy was just like, he reached the level of incompetence, so he was very good in managing the team when he was the team leader, but when he was promoted to the department manager role, he was kind of weak there because he didn't know what to do, and the best place for him was like one step lower. And he was kind of inactive, and it was kind of hard to sell something to him. And the good thing was to sell some change to every other manager, come to him and say, Eric, you know, Chuck is okay, Hassan is okay, all other guys are okay. If you're okay, we're doing a great thing. And he says, yes, let us do that. I will send them a letter immediately that I was in support of the idea from the start. And we make the change. All right, of course we can't change all the things, and for my teams, I see that there are things that really, really matters and you can't sacrifice them. And some things may suffer. The credit of trust is really important, and this is the fundament for anything you build, in my opinion. Expectations are important, and expectations, in my opinion, are way more important than a fixed sprint backlog, let's say, which may suffer on this picture. Because sometimes things happen, sometimes you'll get hot fixes, sometimes things can change. All right, as soon as the product owner is going to be happy with the delivery for a sprint, let us do that. Actually, if it's still a value, we're good. The team spirit important, and the rapid problem solving is important to keep on sustainable level, because, well, problem solving is always kind of hard in enterprise. Sometimes vision suffer, and this may be not a good thing, right? We usually need to have a vision for every sprint, etc. Well, probably this is the experience for my company. We have a complicated project, and a team, for instance, can work on for a couple of sprints in optimizing a performance for an add-in for Microsoft Excel, which works with the tables, and it's really slow when there's a table in a table in a table in a table. So a lot of hard financial stuff. And we don't really do any kind of vision for a sprint for this type of activities. Well, sometimes it's not obvious, sometimes it does not fit into the entire project vision and the value. But well, that's okay. Until team understands what's to do, they have their user stories, they have their sprints, that's good. All right. So let us move on. And the other part of the story was about aggressive hiring we had. And actually, when I say aggressive hiring, the thing that happened, well, a couple of months ago, I guess that was October and November, that a dozen of recruiters, literally, when saying dozen, I say 12 recruiters in Odessa and Kyiv were hiring 30+ people. I think that was 32. And we had to hire them in 2 months. And this is where we really had challenges to building up good teams, because we didn't experience that earlier. We started as the team, we were bringing a person by person by person, and we were good. We had culture, and people absorbed that culture when the growth is not very aggressive. But what happened here, we hired 5 entirely new teams, and these were different people, like from different companies with different culture, and we saw that like the chemistry and the culture we built is just relevant for only half of the employees at the moment, and we wanted to extend that to everyone. So the culture may suffer, and it is very important to keep the chemistry, because new people can bring good habits, but well, there can be a lot of very bad habits. Some people used to work in the companies where they, I don't know, have to put a fingerprint to go to the toilet, and before getting the ticket or something approved or whatever, the person never starts doing something. Other guys come from the companies where they used to come to the office at noon and leave the office at 5 p.m. And if you have to sit till 7, oh, that's a terrible job. We had different cultures, and well, other people were working in the environments where it was totally normal and usual to blame the management in the other country all the time. And we had to build everyone together. And this is where key people helped. The local leaders in the teams we had, the guys who work in the company for most. I saw a pretty good practice, which I still use. When we start the new team, I take the elder from the other team and put to this team for a couple of sprints. I know I temporarily break one of the teams. The velocity will suffer at that moment. And when I bring this person back, like it's 2 micro-storming phases, I would say. However, in the new team, people joined, they know their product owner, they don't know what they do when they have issue with operations, issue with something else, etc., etc. The Scrum Master may be entirely new for the organization, and well, he has his way to learn. So I take the person, put into the team for a couple of sprints. First of all, he helps to remove all the problems. Second, he helps to sustain the culture. As well, what we had to do, we brought up many different ceremonies to try to keep people as one team, well, to feel like one big company. Because like we had about 30 people in the office, within 2 months there's 20 more, and people just don't know each other, but we try to bring them to every team and introduce, well, not all the people will be in the office at this moment, however, and this means that, well, people will not say hello to each other, they will basically don't know them. So the things that we do, at least once in 2 months, sometimes once in a month. We do the demo meetings across the team, even for people that work on different product lines, just to make people understand what other guys are doing, what the guys next room are doing. As well, we are trying to build groups, we are making sessions within the company to share the knowledge between DBAs, between front-end developers, between C# developers, etc. It really helps us because we're building connections between teams. So one day, the teams need to integrate. And if the people used to talk and work together, it helps them. Because usually their product managers or product owners do not communicate that much. All right, so that is about culture. And, well, this is the way how the new teams, who are kind of the guys like this at the first moment, were improving and taking the culture we were building all that time and went to the real squads. All right, so at the moment, different teams work differently for us. We sustain ceremonies we need. In some of the teams, product owners are more like project managers. They are kind of more powerful. Sometimes they press the team a little bit more. This is where managers like me have to step in and keep the manager from diving and micromanaging within the team. Somewhere the Scrum Master is very active and taking more and more into his hands. For every team, there's kind of a field of the common sense is the term I like and we use. That, first of all, things should be reasonable. Somewhere, some ceremonies work, some do not, but well. Anyways, we continue delivering good stuff. All right. And besides all that, we have different delivery teams. I see, I was kind of tentative earlier about whether kind of supportive management like project program management, portfolio management is really needed, who is not involved in the particular product group, but they are somehow along there. We see that it is really needed to help bring entire fleet to one direction. We need managers in both locations just because if some things cannot be solved within the team, it can be escalated. And management is, first of all, a place for escalation because they report to more senior guys in the company and they can solve things. And the boss of the product owner will come to the product owner and say, well, there is something strange happening. Let us see how things can be better. And the product owner will listen. And as well, a lot of management in our organization lies around people management and process support. Alrighty, I think this is all I wanted to present to you. Maybe we can have a discussion or you have questions.